Let's do that hockey.
All right. Hello, everybody. This is episode 71 of Dobber Prospects Radio. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Peter Harling, and let's get at it. So today's episode, I'm going to be joined by Dobber Prospects writer for Anaheim Ducks, Lukas Main. Lukas and I are going to be talking about our respective top 10 rankings of Anaheim Ducks prospects. So that's going to be a fun chat. Stay tuned for that. Coming up first, I'm going to give you 3 hot prospects you want to know for your fantasy league. These are deep league keepers. Guys are going to have to sit on for a little bit, but their upside is super good. They are having monster seasons, and they're 3% Fantrax owned or less. So let's cut right to it. First player I want to talk about is Matias Maccelli, Maccelli. So Matias is a Arizona Coyotes prospect. He is 1% Fantrax owned. He's a 5'11", 165 left winger. So Arizona picked him this past draft in 2019. He's a 4th round pick, 98th overall. And they drafted him out of the USHL. He played 2 years over there, and he's playing in Liga right now anyways, or Liga right now. So his draft year, 2018-19 season, he was playing for the Dubique and the USHL. Had a really good season, 72 points in 62 games, 31 goals, 42 assists, 1.16 point per game, doubling his production from the previous season in the USHL, his first year there as a 17-year-old, so 0.58, jumped up to 1.16 point per game. Now he's gone back over to Finland. He's played 17 games. He has 5 goals and 11 assists. This is playing pro hockey against men, and he's got 16 points. That's just under a point per game. He signed through the 2021 season, so he's probably going to play, obviously, all of this year, and then probably one more season in Finland before he comes back to North America. So remember, he's already played 2 full seasons in the USHL in North America. So this is a player who will be pretty comfortable with the whole language and food and culture and size of the rinks and North American style and all that fun stuff. So his transition from pro hockey in Finland to the NHL could be a pretty short one. He's played pro hockey in Finland for a year or two by the time he comes over to try and make the Arizona roster. He's familiar with North America, played 2 seasons. So if he has a really good rest of this season, keeps playing the way he's playing, I think he's a really strong hopeful for a World Junior roster spot. Hopefully he's a Team Finland kind of player. Has a really nice season, tournament there. Doesn't have a lot of international experience. He played for Finland at the Helinka in his draft year in 17-18. 4 games that he played there. He had a goal and assist, so 2 points. Played a few international games for Finland. Not a whole heck of a lot, though. So 1% Fantrax owned. Pretty sure he's available in your leagues. He's not available in my league that I'm in, and I'm really disappointed to see that he was actually drafted in our fantasy draft, which is a 5-round draft, and he's a 4th round pick. But with all the other free agents and college players and European players, I was really optimistic that he'd be available, and he's not. So that's disappointing. So keep an eye out for Matias Maccelli, Finnish player. Hopefully he's on the World Junior roster. You can get a chance to get some live views in if you want to just throw him on your watch list for now. The next player I want to talk about is another Arizona Coyotes prospect, and he's someone who I had a chance to watch live a couple times recently. This would be Jan Jenik. I also wrote about him in my Dobber Prospects ramblings that I posted yesterday, with some scouting notes from the recent road trip I made through Western Ontario for the OHL Russia series, and caught a whole bunch of games the weekend I was out there. So Jan Jenik is a Hamilton Bulldogs player. He was a Flint import pick, and I guess he didn't want to sign to Flint. He must be a big fan of drinking water. So he wouldn't come over and play for Flint. So they traded his rights to Hamilton for a 5th-round pick. They just gave him away. He reported to Hamilton last year and finished the season with them. 27 games. He had 30 points. That's a pretty good introduction. 13 goals, 17 assists. And I guess he was injured. He missed a lot of playoff time. But this year, he's playing on the top line with Arthur Kaliev, and the two of them are first and second in league scoring. They are shooting the lights out. He has not gone through a game where he didn't have at least 1 point so far this season. That's pretty amazing. He's 21 games. He's got 45 points. 18 goals, 27 assists, and only 3 of his 18 goals are power play goals. So it's not like these guys are soaking up all the gravy on the power play. They're getting it done 5-on-5. He is certainly their number one center. He's being deployed in a whole bunch of situations. He's 6'1", 165, so he's got good size. His Fantrax ownership is only 2%. So that's probably because he was a 3rd-round pick in the 2018 draft, 65th overall, out of Czech Republic. So his pedigree in North America isn't really that well known. He played for Czechs at the World Juniors last year, 3 games, 2 assists. So not a lot of exposure there either. Guarantee you that the 19-year-old makes the Czech World Junior roster again this coming tournament, and he'll have a breakout. Hopefully he's healthy, and he'll have a breakout performance there. He'll be someone who, if you watch the Czech games, the announcers will be calling his name a lot. So look for his ownership to really take a jump after the World Juniors. People will be like, oh my God, who's this Jan Jenik guy? And they'll look like, oh my God, he's leading the league in scoring in the OHL. He's already in North America adjusting. He's not, a European flight risk. He's a 3rd-round pick. That's a pretty decent pedigree. I got to consider that the Arizona Coyotes are going to give him a couple of opportunities to make the team. I'm not sure how he did at the training camp this previous summer. It would have been his 2nd go around at their rookie development camps. I'd be curious to do a little bit more research on that and figure out where he fit in there. But this is a player who is trending up fast real quick, and that 2% Fantrax ownership is going to take a big jump, and I'm predicting that'll happen after the World Juniors. So if you're looking for some fantasy prospect hidden gems, these are the guys you want to take a look at your roster, your league, see if they're available, and snap them up now while everyone looks at your transaction line and says, who in the world is that guy? And then a year or two later, they're like, man, how come you have so many good prospects on your team? So finally, the next guy on the list that I want to talk about is a goalie. And goalies are voodoo. I really find them very difficult to predict. Some guys have mediocre junior careers and then go on to be amazing. Some guys have amazing junior careers and go on to be nothing, Justin Pogge. And then some guys have amazing junior careers and go on to be amazing goalies. So hopefully Justus Annunen is the next one of the latter. So he's a goalie. He's playing in the Liga right now, and he is a Colorado Avalanche prospect. So Justus Annunen, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. My Finnish pronunciations are atrocious. Yoki is probably rolling his eyes right now. He's a 2018 3rd-round pick by the Colorado Avalanche. Again, 3% Fantrax owned, so widely available in a lot of leagues. So looking over his career, he's played his entire career over in Finland, junior SMA, Liga. This year, he's playing full season with Karpat, and they're the number 1 team in Liga. They've got Jesse Puljujärvi helping them out over there. So that has a little bit to do with why they're in first place. But quite frankly, I bet that Justus Annunen has a little bit more to do with that. He's got some otherworldly stats so far this season. So he's played 12 games. He's splitting games with Patrick Rebar. I think he's Czech. Anyhow, he had a really good World Junior. He's a good goalie prospect as well. So the Karpat has two really good goalies, and Justus Annunen has played 12 games. He's won 10 of them, lost none, and has 2 ties. His goals against average is 1.28, and his save percentage is 946. Those are very impressive stats. But what blows my mind is of the 12 games he's played and the 10 that he's won, 5 of them have been by shutout. He's got 5 shutouts in 12 games. This just in, that's real good. He has just recently, before the season started, signed a 2-year extension. And he's 19 years old. So he'll be eligible to backstop Finland at the World Juniors this year. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is aged out. He's 20, so he's done. So hopefully Justus Annunen will be the goalie that Finland goes with. He is the odds-on favorite at this point, and the player that Jokki Nevalainen has predicted will be their goalie for the tournament as well. He also has Matias Maccelli on their first line with Anton Lundell and Rasmus Kapari. So he has a great article on Dobber Prospects that you should look into if you're interested in that. Prospects Ramblings, updated WGC projection for Team Finland. He put that up 2 days ago, so it's a pretty fresh article. Give it a read. Jokki does some really great stuff as the head of scouting for Dobber Prospects, our European division. So a quick recap, my 3 players that you want to look for in your prospect league. Matias Maccelli, 1% owned Fantrax Arizona Coyotes prospect. Jan Jenik, 2% owned Arizona Coyotes prospect. And Justus Annunen, Colorado, 3% Fantrax owned. These are all players you want to, if you can stash them for a couple of years, they have very high upside. And if you can add them for free or maybe acquire them from someone who isn't appreciative of their value, they'd be really great buy low opportunities. All right, so that's it for this segment. I'm going to take a quick cut and then come back with an interview I just had with Lucas Maine, and we're going to talk about the Anaheim Ducks prospects. I recently did an article for my NHL Trade Rumors where I ranked their top 10 prospects, and Lucas covers Anaheim prospects, being a California native and Ducks fan. He covers prospects from the Ducks for Dobber Prospects. So we'll be going over each other's lists, criticizing, and maybe even doing a little smack talk about our fantasy hockey head-to-head matchup that we're having in the Dobber Prospects League this week. So stick around for some Ducks Prospects talk. All right, so joined by my next guest, which is a Dobber Prospects writer. It would be Lucas Maine from sunny California. He is our Anaheim Ducks prospect writer. Welcome to the podcast, Lucas.
What's going on, Pete? Thanks for having me. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Well, it's about time got you on the pod. You're a big supporter, so I really appreciate that. And it's good to have you on, man.
Yeah, thanks. Good to be here.
Right. So as I mentioned, Lucas is our Anaheim Ducks prospect writer for Dobber Prospects. And you also do some scribing for Vegas for the Hockey Writers, a site I wrote for a long time ago. And just in case anyone wants to find your stuff, hit me with your Twitter handle.
Yeah, it's LAM 1926. Lamb 1926.
Right on. All right. So I also do some writing for my NHL Trade Rumors. I do some top 10 prospect rankings for them. On previous episode, I had Mark Allred from the Black and Gold podcast on, and we went through our respective top 10 rankings for the Boston Bruins. If you're a Bruins fan and you missed it, or if you like this episode and you're looking for some more, just dial it back a little bit and you'll find it. And well, I'm going to do the same thing this episode with Lucas here. We're going to talk all Anaheim Ducks prospects for this segment and go over each other's top 10 lists. For the Bruins one, we did it in reverse order. We started at 10 and worked our way up. How does that sound to you?
Yeah, let's do it. We can't give the listeners our top picks early, you know?
Right, it's more suspenseful this way. It gets more, it builds up and it gets better as we go. All right, so yeah. starting at the bottom and working our way up. Actually, just a quick look overview without giving the names away. We've got 9 out of 9 of the same prospects. The only ones where we didn't have on each other's top 10 was 10. So I have Blake McLaughlin, and you've got Jackson Lacombe. Let's talk about those guys. What do you like about Lacombe?
Yeah, he just recently switched from forward to D. So he has those offensive instincts. He's a rookie at Minnesota right now with the Golden Gophers, playing top pair minutes. He's got 5 assists on the season. But last season with Shaddix, he set the school record for D with points. He had 89 with 22 goals and 67 assists. And the Ducks have a pretty good rep with developing defensemen, especially, from later rounds. The last, 10 years or so, they picked up Mahura in the 16 draft, 3rd round. Marcus Pettersson, 2nd round, 2014. Brandon Montour was a 2014 2nd rounder as well. Josh Manson was a 6th round pick in 2011. Sammy Vatanen in 2009, a 4th round pick. Justin Schultz, a 2nd round pick in 2008. So, the Ducks have a pretty good history developing kind of these later round defensemen. His style is perfect for this new NHL. So, I'm really excited to see him develop.
Where's he playing right now?
University of Minnesota.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
So he's teammates. He's teammates with my guy.
With your guy, yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we're really splitting hairs here. So my guy is Blake McLaughlin. He's a year older. He was drafted in 2018, and he came out of Team USA, Chicago Steel, USHL.
USHL.
Yeah, so this is his 2nd season. His 1st season was pretty good. 20 points in the 35 games as a freshman is very good at the NCAA. Yeah. His sophomore season, 4 points in 12 games so far. So, a little bit of opportunity there. Maybe a sophomore slump to start. He's a little bit undersized, 5'11", left winger. I think he's looking at another year or 2 of college hockey before he turns pro. So the Ducks, I'm assuming, would like it to be under the 4-year threshold so they don't risk losing him as a free agent. But would Blake McLaughlin be someone who's close to your top 10?
Yeah, definitely. He was sitting right outside of it. I like his game a lot too. Kind of reminds me of a Kyle Palmieri type. He's got a heavy shot, and he's a good playmaker, vision guy out there. But yeah, he was right outside my top 10.
All right. Moving up the ladder a little bit, in your number 9 spot, you've got Brennan Guhle, or Guhle. I believe it's Guhle. Yeah, so here's a defenseman that is currently playing for their AHL affiliate, San Diego Gulls. I believe that's where he is, or is he called up in the NHL right now?
Yeah, they're he's coming back and forth. the Ducks are, pretty thin on D, but he did play last game against the Capitals, but he's been up and down a little bit. He's been hurt this season too, which is kind of why he is at number 9 on my list. Going back to last season when he was acquired by the Ducks, in this season, he's already had a few injuries. So, he's kind of getting that Band-Aid status, in my eyes. So that's why I have him at 9. But, he's a smooth skater. He's a good two-way guy. I just hope he can kind of stay healthy and be able to fully develop.
Yeah, he's a player that they acquired via trade. When they sent Brandon Montour to Buffalo, they picked up a pick, which ended up being Brayden Tracey, who we'll talk about in a little bit, and Brandon Montour. And Brandon Guhle. So just kind of give a little context to our rankings. I'm not sure what your criteria was for the rankings, but for me, it was players who were under 25 years old and played less than 50 career games. So some players who are outside the list that are on the roster would be guys like Troy Terry, Max Jones, Jacob Larson. These guys are not going to be making our rankings. And I also gave a little bit more credit to players who are closer to the NHL than further away, or have higher upside. So those two things are the highest determining factors for me. How close are you to being a regular NHLer, and what is your upside when you get to the NHL? So with Guhle, I think I have him ranked a little bit higher than you do, quite a bit actually. I have him ranked 5th. Because he's on the cusp of being an NHL regular. To your point, if he can just get some good health and maybe a break or two, I think he'll be a regular in the roster. His ceiling might not be extremely high. I think he's a lot closer than some of the other defensive prospects they have in the system. So that's, I think, the fundamental difference maybe between our rankings. Why I have him a little bit higher than you do.
Yeah, for sure. And to go to your point, he's playing in the NHL already, averaging about 19 minutes a game. He gets paired most of the time with Cam Fowler. And those two guys just go skate circles around the rink. So, right. He's definitely I'm excited to see his growth for sure.
All right. So the guy I had ranked at number 9 is Benoit Olivier Groulx, or Bo Groulx, as he is called for short term. Now, I like Bo Groulx a lot. You have him ranked 8th. So this is a nice little segue, 9th to 8th. We can just talk about the same player here. Yeah, so right in the same wheelhouse. I like him a lot. I think he's a very versatile utility player. He can move up and down your roster. He's got good but not great offensive abilities. He's got 28 points in 19 games this season with the Halifax Mooseheads. He's got a pretty good pedigree that he's working on. He's played internationally for Canada, the Hlinka. He's played in a Memorial Cup. I don't think he's a lock for Team Canada, but I think because they'll have some elite offensive players, they'll be looking for players who can round out their depth, that still have offensive upside, that have some captaincy and leadership abilities, can play shorthanded, can play a physical role, can play a shutdown role, and they're not an offensive ineptability. He had 100-point penalty minutes in his draft season. So there's a lot to like about this player. So those are some of the reasons why I had him in my rankings. I don't think he's very close to the NHL. This will be his final season of junior eligibility. And then he'll play, I think, at least a season adjusting to the pro level at the AHL. That's one of the biggest jumps for prospects to make, going from junior to the AHL. And a lot of players or scouts or coaches say it's an even more difficult jump from going to the AHL to the NHL. So a little bit of development time still on the horizon for Bo Groulx, and I don't think his upside is of the top 6 variety, but I think he'll be a gangbusters, middle of the roster kind of depth chart sort of player.
Yeah, definitely. One reason I like his game a lot is his smarts out there. He's got the size. He's just he can beat you. He'll play a defensive game. He does have those tools where he can go out and make a move and score. So he's just really smart. A smart player out there, and like you said, I think he'll be great for that depth role on Team Canada, because he knows his role out there.
Do you think he's a lock for the roster?
I wouldn't say a lock, but
probable.
Yeah.
Canada's got so many options.
Yeah, right. And then his father was he played in the Q as well. Played over in France. Now he's a coach over here. I believe he's currently with the Crunch.
Yeah.
And he's coached 17 years, and I think he's only missed the playoffs once. So he thinks the game. And I'm sure he instilled that in Bo, and I'm excited to see his growth too. But he kind of comes in as like a middle 6 guy, a feisty center, kind of like a Ryan Kessler type. If we're comparing him to Ducks players and whatnot, he can move up in the lineup if injuries occur. Or kind of just sit in that third line role and be kind of your shutdown guy.
Yeah, he's not a first line center, and if he's your second line center, I think you've got some issues. If he's your third line center, I think he's very good, and if he's your fourth line center, he'd be one of the best in the league. That's kind of where I see his NHL slotting for the future.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So Bo Groulx is a good one. I like him. He's got a lot of Charlie hustle in his game, a lot of compete. And he's not short. He's not short on anything and skill. So kind of maybe a jack of all trades, a master of none sort of thing. All right. Moving on. So that's who you have at ranked 8th. I had him at 9. My 8th ranked guy is Brayden Tracey, who you have ranked at 7. So for those who aren't familiar with Brayden Tracey, he just kind of came out of nowhere in his draft year last year, and was I'm not sure where he was ranked in the preliminary NHL Central Scouting ranking, but it wasn't the first round. But by the midway point of the season, there was a lot of people talking about this Brayden Tracey guy from Moose Jaw Warriors. He is having a breakout season. Now, he played on a line with a couple overage OHL players who were having 100-point kind of seasons, and so some people were concerned, like, well, is he just along for the ride? He put up 81 points in his draft year, 66 games, so he kind of came out of nowhere. But those guys have obviously aged out, and he's continuing to produce even more offense in his D+1 year. He's got over 20 points in 12 games. So he's a prospect who is trending up hard. Everywhere he's played, top prospect game, rookie development camps this summer with the Ducks, looked good. So that's why I have him on my roster at 8th, and you've got him at 7. So why do you have him a little bit higher than me?
Yeah, like you were saying, I'm sure many people thought he was kind of just a passenger last season, playing with the 2 overage kids. But this season they're gone, and he really took those keys, and he's driving the bus now in Moose Jaw. He's got speed. He's got a great shot. I I just think he'll really kind of develop and fit into that top six role up in Anaheim. Playing, he just played with the WHL team, the Canada Russia series. Uh, I played both games, had a power play assist. Uh, yeah.
All right. Yeah. I think he's a goodie. He's got another 2 years year of junior eligibility awaiting him. So I think the upside is intriguing, potentially high. There's a little bit of an incubation period to go with Brayden Tracey, though.
Yeah, definitely. He he's still raw. This is only his second season in the Dub, right? But he knows how to play in all three zones, and his skating's pretty good. So as long as he just keeps up on that trajectory, it should develop into a nice player.
All right, so let's talk about someone who's a little bit older, a little bit closer. The guy I have ranked 7th, you have ranked 5th. So that would be defenseman Josh Mahura. You got him ranked higher than me, so why don't you start and tell me what you like about Mahura?
He's got great vision out there. He's a good skater. He's able to transition back and forth pretty quick. He's got a good point shot. I do feel he needs to kind of work on getting that through more, because it's a bomb.
A back scratcher.
Yeah, heads up, and he's got good good quarterback potential on I would say on the top power play unit.
Yeah, I think I should have ranked him a little bit higher than I did based on the criteria that I explained. I think he's got a decent upside, and I think his ETA is this season, if not next. So Corbinian Holzer and Michael Del Zotto are both on expiring contracts. They're expendable. They either or both of them might not be back. And so far, Mahura has split his season between the two teams in the AHL and the NHL. It's interesting. He's got 7 games played in both leagues, and he's got only 1 assist in the AHL. But he's got 4 points, a goal, and 3 assists in the NHL this season. So his NHL stats are significantly more impressive than his AHL stats. That's kind of interesting. Last season he had 20 and 40 in the A and 5 and 17 up with the Ducks.
Yeah, and he's explosive at times. His one of his games this year, those 3 assists came in the same game, and I believe they all came within something like 2 minutes or something. So when he's feeling it, he's feeling it. Just skating the puck up the ice, and like you said, Holzer, Del Zotto, those guys are free agents at the end of the year, kind of more just depth guys. Good Branson, he's only got 2 years left, and he's more of that shutdown type. So besides Fowler and Hampus Lindholm, Mahura is under some good leaders to kind of develop under there.
All right, so that's another defenseman. That moves us on to the first goalie that we've talked about. At the number 6 spot, you and I both have the same guy, and that's goaltender Lukas Dostal. The heir apparent to the crease in Anaheim. With John Gibson as the incumbent, there is no rush to move this 19-year-old kid along. So I think this is another example of an incubation period, but a potentially high upside. Future starting goalie, perhaps. Thoughts on Dostal?
Yeah, definitely. Gibson's only 26, and just signed that 8-year contract, so no need to rush him. You know, keep him over in Europe. He just graduated to the Liga. I believe he played a few games last season, but he's a full-time starter this season. Has a goals against average under 2, save percentage is at 920. And last year for Czech at the World Juniors, everyone was talking about their powerhouse offense, but they didn't show up. Dostal did. He had a 957 save percentage in the tournament. He's definitely the future number one. Granted, it's going to be a wait, but if you can sit on him in a deep prospect pool, I think he'll definitely be worth the wait.
Yeah, he had his big breakout performance at the World Juniors last year with the Czech. Looking at his profile on Elite Prospects, something that really jumps out to me is how many different teams and leagues he's played for. So this season, he's played 16 games, all in the Liga. But last year, he played 2 games in the Champions League, 2 games for the Czech U19, 2 games for the Czech, 24 games for Czech 2, 10 games in the Liga, 1 Mestis game, and then like 15, almost 20 international games in total between World Juniors and International Junior. So, like, what's that, like 8 different jerseys he had on at different times last year?
Yeah, I hope he's got a couple of suitcases, huh?
Right. So he played a decent number of games, 20, 40, 50, 60. So over 60 games last year. So that's a good number of games. And he's got pretty good stats across the board in all the leagues with some real eye poppers. And this year, your point to his stats in Liga are very good as well. But what I really like is that he'll have some consistency this year. So far, all he's played is Liga. He'll play for the World Juniors again. I believe he's not aged out. He's only 19, so he should be there again as the starting goalie in a great tournament there. That'll be great experience and exposure for him again. If he's available in your fantasy league and you're thinking about picking him up, I would highly recommend doing that before the World Juniors because there was a lot of buzz about this kid last year at the World Juniors, and there probably will be again. So that's Lukas Dostal, and we've already talked both our number 5 guys. Mine was Guhle and yours was Mahura. So that just kind of moves us right up into the top 4. And the number 4 guy we have is the same. We both have Isac Lundestrom, center, playing in his second season in North America. He's a draft pick from the 2018 draft, first round, 23rd overall. What's your take on Lundestrom?
Yeah, he surprised a lot last season, making made the Ducks out of camp. I think I think he's got high upside potential there. The Ducks have a great history with Swedish players in the last 5 years or so with Raquel, Lindholm, bringing Silfverberg over. So he's going to have familiarity in that locker room. So he won't feel out of sorts and whatnot. His shot is far and great. Everyone talks about Elias Peterson. Obviously it's not that good, but something over in Sweden, they're doing it right. He's got quick hands, and he's smart in his own zone. Real 200-foot player. I think just getting used to the North American game. He's got a high ceiling.
Let's talk about that. So you've got Getzlaf on the roster already. He'll have some competition with Zegras and Sam Steele as pivots as well. Do one of these guys have to move to the wing? Because there's not enough center ice positions in the top 6 for all 4 of them.
Yeah, no, definitely. I believe last season, when he was in Anaheim, he played some games on the wing. They kind of transitioned Raquel into that, same spot. He was drafted as a center, and played center for a while, but now he's primarily a left winger. So I could see them doing the same thing with Lundstrom.
Yep. Okay. And he played 15 games, was sent down to the AHL, half a point a game there, but was shortly loaned back to Sweden. This year, again, broke in the NHL, had a cup of coffee, has since been returned to the AHL. 12 games there, 6 points, pretty much the same point as last year. I think this year, though, we can expect him to stay in North America. He's not likely going back to Sweden now.
Yeah, definitely. He played some big minutes last season with the goals in their playoff run. After his season in Sweden was over, he came back over to North America and was a big part of that Calder Cup run for the goals. They ended up losing in the conference finals, but some valuable experience gained there.
All right, let's move on. So we kind of crisscross in our second and third overall rankings with Sam Steele and Max Comtois. So I have Comtois at 2 and Steele at 3, and you've got Steele at 2 and Comtois at 3. So let's talk about these guys. Who do you want to start with, Comtois or Steele?
Let's go with Comtois.
All right. So he's coming out of a product of the Q. The Ducks drafted him in 2017, kind of a late-ish second-round pick, 50th overall. He's a little bit of a Getzlaf kind of player. He's a winger, though. 6'2", 207 pounds. So he's a pretty strong player, and he's good around the net, goal scorer, good shot, creates a little bit of traffic in the crease, is hard along the wall. And this will be his second season of pro hockey. Last year in his rookie year, he had a 10-game audition with the Ducks, had 7 points, which was pretty incredible. Not good enough, though, to stay. Played 4 games in the AHL, but ultimately was returned to junior, where he exploded. 48 points, 25 games, 31 goals, had 5 goals for Canada at the World Juniors. So overripe, perhaps. And this year, he's played the majority of the games in the NHL. So 13 games, 5 points is what he's rocking right now. I'm not sure if his fantasy and offensive upside is first line. I would argue that it is top 6 and that basically he's arrived. I think he's an NHL player going forward. Where do you see Comtois?
Yeah, definitely. I see him in that top 6 role. Especially if we're talking about fantasy purposes, I'm gonna steal some of your thunder here. He's gonna be great for a bangers and mash league. Keeping Karlsson. He's got 30 hits in his 13 games this season. And he's a pest out there. He's tough. So he'll get into some fights here and there, rack up some PIMs for your fantasy league if your league counts those. But yeah, I think he has arrived. Anaheim has a number of young wingers, so I think they're kind of rotating those guys, calling a guy up, sending a guy down. Max Jones was sent down, but called back up after a few days. So I feel like they're giving guys shots, but he's definitely gonna see more time in the NHL this season and be a full-time player next season.
Yeah, Anaheim seems to be a team that is giving really, really hard looks at some of the young players. They've made some roster spots available, buying out guys like Corey Perry. There's a little bit of roster turnover. I can't remember the other guys off the top of my head off the season. So they made some spots for young guys, and it looks like Comtois is one of the guys that has really sunk his teeth into one of those spots. Which is why I have him ranked second over Steele.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I'm in.
Yeah. I mean, and I was just going to say, the Ducks have plenty of young forwards. So, going forward the rest of this season, that they've been pretty fortunate this season on the injury front for their forwards. So he's definitely going to be that first call up. And if they make a move for a defenseman, a guy like Kasha, who was rumored over the summer to be going away, they have spots.
Yeah, and the other guy we have crisscrossed in the second and third rankings is Sam Steele, 21-year-old center. So he's a year older than Comtois. He is a 2016 draft, last pick of the first round, or second last pick if Vegas would have been in by then. So 30th overall. This is his second season in pro hockey. So he's a product of the Dub. He's a prolific scorer in the WHL, had a 131-point season at one point. Last year, 11 points in the NHL in 22 games. Had a good look at the start of the season, and then was returned for, I think it was even split, returned for the balance of the season in the AHL, where he had 41 points in 53 games. That is a monster rookie season at the pro level. That is very difficult to do. So this year, he's been NHL all the time, and he's got 9 points in 18 games, 1 goal, 8 assists. So he's a playmaking center. It looks like he's here to stay. You watch a lot more Ducks games than I do. How's he looked?
Yeah, his vision is unreal out there. He's got his head up the whole time, making plays. I think one, I don't remember which game it was, but he's got his head up. He's circling the zone. He goes behind the net, and then just backhand pass the way he came in front of the net, and I think Richie puts it in or someone. So his playmaking ability is tops on the team. He's a great face-off guy too. If your league counts those, he's definitely going to be one of those league leaders in a few years once he gets older and a little bit stronger. But I know last season he had a game. He went 10-0 in the dot. He's a great. He exhibits great leadership qualities. I think he's definitely going to be the 1B behind Zegras and for the future.
Do you think it's possible that because he's maybe a little bit better playmaker than Zegras, that Zegras is the guy that ends up moving to the wing and plays on a line with Sam Steele and Getzlaf?
I mean, I think Getzlaf, I believe, is 34. So I think by the time those guys get to the NHL together, we'll kind of be looking at a Joe Thornton type situation. Getzlaf will kind of be down on say that third line and let the kids play. But I think Zegras is he's a great two-way center as well. So I feel like they'll probably be a 1A, 1B type situation.
All right, yeah. So let's move on to number one. We both have the same guy at number one. In process of elimination, most people have probably figured out that it's Trevor Zegras. So before we talk about him, let's do a quick recap of how we got down to number one. So we'll start with Lucas's top 10. At number 10, he had Jackson Lacombe. And then at 9, Brennan Guhle. Number 8 was Groulx. Number 7 is Brayden Tracey. 6 was goalie Lukas Dostal. 5 was back to the blue line with Josh Mahura. And then Isac Lundestrom, number 4, with Comtois at 3 and Sam Steele at 2. For me, I went Blake McLaughlin at 10, Groulx at 9, Brayden Tracey at 8, Josh Mahura maybe a little low at 7, Lukas Dostal at 6 as well, Brendan Guhle at 5. I also had Lundestrom at 4, and then Sam Steele at 3 and Max Comtois at 2. So the number one prospect we have is for the Anaheim Ducks is Trevor Zegras. He was drafted 9th overall in 2019 by the Ducks. It'd be interesting to see if he's the heir apparent to the number one center or if it's Sam Steele. We just kind of talked a little bit about that. The upside for Zegras is very high. He is currently he was drafted out of the U.S. National Team Development Program, one of the greatest, if not the best, American team of all time for the draft. He's gone to Boston University. He's a Boston Terrier right now. As a freshman, in 11 games, he's got 4 goals and 9 assists for 13 points. That's very good for those keeping score at home. He could be a one and done at the NCAA. I think that is very probable. As a matter of fact, he'll be a lock for the American World Junior roster. So it'll be really interesting to see him play at the World Juniors because it's hard to watch a lot of Boston Terrier games on TV. For me in Canada, I'm not sure. Do you get a lot of college hockey games on TV in the States very easily? Or you have to subscribe to specialty channels?
Yeah, I mean, out here in California, no. You have to subscribe to those special channels, Big Ten Network, all that stuff. We get the occasional games on NBCSN, but that's really once in a blue moon. The coverage kicks up once the Frozen Four and everything comes on, but regular season play, no.
Yeah, about the same here. I subscribe to Big Ten. It's not going to help me watch Boston University games, but there's a lot of good teams in Big Ten. TSN covers a few as well. Anyways, back to Zegras. Yeah, so do you think he's a one and done? You think he turns pro next year?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think there's a pretty good shot at that. He's great in his own zone. Elite vision. He's a playmaker, but he's got a pretty good shot as well. And he's pretty quick. And looking at the Ducks roster, he could have a big spot on the team next season. Kind of like I said earlier, Getzlaf will be 35 next year. So kind of get him into the fold now while Getzlaf still has, some of his, he'll have 1 year left on his contract next year. So who knows where he wants to go, if he wants to keep playing, but, get Zegras into the fold, kind of have him learn under Getzlaf. And, I feel Zegras, Steele, Getzlaf, top 3 centers going into next year could be deadly.
Yeah. I think he turns pro next year. I guess my question is, with that, how many games will he play in the NHL versus the AHL? I don't think it's a bad idea to allow him to play more significant minutes at the center ice position in the AHL. And get a little bit up to the pro speed, because it's a big jump from college to pro hockey. And then it's more difficult as centers as well. You have a lot more responsibility. Your competition on the draw is a lot harder than it is at college, and no doubt. The players are bigger and faster and stronger, yada, yada, yada. So I think, anyways, like I was saying, he's ranked number 1 on my list because I think the upside for Zegras is one of the highest of all of the prospects, if not the best. And I think his incubation period is going to be pretty short. I'd be surprised if he went back to college next year and played his sophomore season at BU. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I doubt it. He's a 9th overall pick. So I think he'll be ready physically and skill wise to turn pro. It's just a question of, does he feel that he wants to stay in college or turn pro?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it was last weekend or 2 weekends ago. He put up 6 points in 2 games against the Providence Friars. So he just has that explosiveness to him. So I would agree with you. I think it's a good chance he's one and done.
Yeah, I mean, he's over a point per game at American Thanksgiving kind of stage in the season. Still quite a bit of hockey to go, but I mean, it's not like he's going to be playing catch up. He's already producing at an elite level in his first year at college. I don't think he'll have much to gain by a second season of college. So, yeah, right on. All right, so Lucas, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast. Folks, you can catch his content on Dobber Prospects on the Anaheim Ducks page. He's in charge of the rankings and player scores and updates for the prospects for the Ducks there. Also does some writing for the Hockey Writers covering Vegas. Do you have any other writing that I'm missing?
No, those are the 2.
Your Twitter handle. Give me that one more time.
Yeah. So it's LAM 1926.
Right on. All right. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast. Good luck in our head-to-head match this week in the DPFHL. It's still early. I got a little bit of a lead on you, but it's still early. A lot can change on a big night in the NHL, like a Thursday night. So we'll see how it goes. I wish you no luck this week.
Yeah.
We have equal records. We're both 3-2-1. So this is a big match.
Yeah, definitely. I liked your moves during the off season. Got a little lucky with that FNUF buyout. But you got a good squad. I'm shaking in my boots.
Yeah, the FNUF buyout. I love Dion Phaneuf. He's one of my all-time favorite players. So it sucks to see him not in the NHL anymore. But I kind of saw that coming, so I wasn't panicking on buying him out or trading him, and giving up a first-round pick to move him off my roster because cap space is so critical in this league. So when he was bought out, I kind of saw that coming. So that was welcome. I was actually kind of counting on it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So that was some nice cap relief, and I didn't really have any other players. Like I didn't have a Mitch Marner that was looking to sign a new big contract. So I literally just inherited a couple million in cap, which allowed me to add some quality depth free agents through the draft. So that really rounded out my roster nicely. All right. Anyways, that's enough talk about a fantasy league that no one cares about. Thanks so much for joining me, and we'll get you on a future episode to talk some more Ducks. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, bud. All right. We'll see you around.
All right. Take care.